Hey guys, what's up? It's Catrice, and I am so excited about the topic today. I'm excited because I had some real world experience, and I am overflowing with wanting to chat with you about how you can better your PowerPoint presentation. Are you struggling with your PowerPoint presentation? You know it's part of the curriculum and you have to do it, but it's putting both you and your students to sleep. I got you. Today, I've got you. Let's get into it. All right, like I was saying, I had a chance to have some real world experience. I had to jump in, substitute for a class. I haven't had to do that in a little while. And lucky me, I had some experience with this class, but I didn't have a lot of prep time. And so I went into this class and I did the absolute best that I could do. And when I walked away, I knew in my whole heart, my whole soul was like, man, I wish I had another chance to do that. I wish I could go back in there and like recurate some things and have some more conversations and pull out some, some activities or something. I wish I had a chance to go back in and just make it better. And I think that's why I enjoy education so much, because I think that people do want to know things. I think that people are excited about learning, but it really comes down to the teacher. The teacher is the one who's going to make this experience either come to life or fall flat. And I am a come to life type of person. And so in this experience, I just wanted to share with you what I came across and how you can help yourself, and what I would do differently if it were me going back into the classroom, to make sure that my PowerPoint presentations were actually hitting. Because let's be honest, the PowerPoint presentation is given to you as a guide, and I think that we hang on to it for dear life. Like, this is gold. These are the things that I must go over. And if I'm also being honest, it gives you a great outline and a great guide of what it is you're supposed to be doing in class that day. Thank goodness I had PowerPoint presentations back in the day, because I don't have time to go in and curate all these PowerPoint presentations. I want to do the fun part. I want to do the presenting part. But in order for me to land home in a presentation, the first thing that I need to do is I need to make sure I know what the goal is for the day. So I did go in and I immediately pulled out the syllabus, the modules, what do we got going on today? What have we done this week? So that my brain could kind of wrap itself around what's going on. You should always know what is going on for the day. This way, your brain knows what it needs to grasp onto, what conversations it needs to have, what activities it's possible for you to do. But you can't do that if you haven't looked at the lessons. You can't do that if you haven't looked at the material, the books, the syllabus. You can't do that. So the first thing you have to do is have a clear goal for what the students need to take away. What is the aha moment? What is the thing that brings the shock and awe? What is the thing that is the most exciting? You have to know that before walking into class that day. And then when you know what the aha moment is, when you know what the exciting thing is going to be, when you know what the discovery is going to be for class that day, then you get to prepare for the journey that is the PowerPoint presentation. We get to prepare for the excitement that is the PowerPoint presentation. It's still the PowerPoint presentation, but to be honest and to be fair, if you have prepared for it, it doesn't feel like a PowerPoint presentation. And that's the one thing that I recognize. I mean, man, I wish I had a little bit more time, because in my preparation, I would have come up with better stories to hit those bullet points that are in there. So that's what I would have done. I would have gone through and I would have, oh, here are the bullet points. Oh, I know a good story about this. I know a good story about that. I know a good story about here, there. That way I can beef up these bullet points that are on this PowerPoint presentation, because it's not about the little bullet point. It's about bringing the person in, bringing the students in, having them float along and be excited about the experience. I would have looked up current events. What current events, current trends, current things are going on that I can input, squeeze in, shock and awe about this PowerPoint presentation. And I would have also said, okay, and this is where I love technology, because ChatGPT didn't exist back in the day, and there's so many other things other than ChatGPT, but I would have ChatGPT this. What activities can I do regarding this? And after I had figured out those three things, I would have said, what thing can I give to you, the student, where you can put it in your hand, where you can write on it, where you can build it, where it explodes. Okay, that's being dramatic, but exploding things are cool. Shock and awe, yeah? Okay, maybe too far, but you get what I'm saying. What we want to do is really prepare for what is on the PowerPoint. In my previous day, and what I wish I could have done for this class, knew the PowerPoint so well that I could bounce back and forth. And that bouncing back and forth was so important because it made the students have to keep up with me. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that on PowerPoint, like on this slide right here. And then I'd go like 4 slides ahead. We'd have a really great conversation. And then I'd back up and they're just like, oh, wait, like their brain has to lock in. You have to be paying attention because I know exactly where we're going. I know exactly how to drive this bus. I know where we need to land. I know where the stopping point is. So I think that preparation is so important. I already mentioned this, but I am going to say it again. Once I have my clear goal as to where we're going in the class, my aha moment, and then I've prepared all the other things, I really do want to have those really great stories. I've gone through, I've picked out what great stories go where, but here's the caveat to those great stories. As cool as they are, and as important as they are, and they are, we also understand that you, me, are the backbone of that class session. And so we are going to lean back on our own personal stories. And I found myself doing that. And I knew the stories were good stories, but because I hadn't done a class session in a long time, I also knew that there was a chance that I was throwing too many personal stories in there. Because at the end of the day, no one cares about you. That's the meanest thing that I'm probably going to say. And I don't actually mean that no one cares, because you are the most important person in the world, in the room. It's your life. You are important. But your students also feel the same way about themselves. And so once they start to hear story after story after story about you, and especially if you're in class for an extended amount of time, it begins to be too much. But if you've prepared, and you have these perfect stories for these perfect situations, and you have kept track of the stories that hit home. You keep track of the stories where people are staring at you and they're looking and they want to know what happened. Nobody's on their phone. They have good questions. You know when the story hits. You also know if the story flops because phones are out, nobody's paying attention, crickets, then you ask questions, and then they all pretend like they don't know who you are and they've never seen you before. So you know the difference. You got to keep track of those and keep the stories that really elicit a great experience, great conversation from your students. Once you have the good stories, this is where things get challenging. And maybe I just personally feel like it's a challenge. It might not be a challenge to you, but it is something that needs to be done. And what needs to be done is we need to be great at asking questions. If you ask a question and no one answers you, you don't have this down. I happen to know that there are a million questions I could ask, and sometimes I just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. My favorite question is, do you have any questions? And I know nobody has any questions. Like, nobody responds to that. And if somebody does respond to that, maybe they've been holding on to this one question they've intended to ask for the entire time, and they have not held on to, they have not grasped any other knowledge. They just need to know the answer to this one question. Do you have any questions? If they're not asking questions after you've asked them a question, if they're not giving feedback after you've asked them a question, you have not made the room comfortable enough with having those conversations to where they have been able to critically think, go through the process, and come back with actual feedback that is important to you. Sometimes it is as simple as not asking, do you have any questions? Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, we went over this, this, and this today. Do we understand how this moves from here to here? And hopefully someone in the classroom pipes up and says, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yes, killing the game. You're going to do great on the test. As long as we understand how this moves from here to here, you're going to do amazing on the test. If I just say, does anybody have any questions? Everyone's like, I don't know. I'm just ready to leave. Have lunch. Let me go home. So just curating how you're asking those questions. And same thing as you were doing for the stories, do for your questions. If you have a question that really lands home, if you have a subject that really elicits conversation, write those things down. That's what the syllabus is for. That's what the lesson plans are for. We're keeping notes. We're taking track. We are preparing. We're over preparing. And then you know exactly, okay, in this lesson, this is gonna hit home for conversation. And also, of course, just preparing your classroom to feel comfortable with participating in conversation. How I typically do that and how I was able to kind of break the ice is just to make people feel really good about themselves when they asked a question or when they jumped in with something. Oh my gosh, that is so smart. Oh, that is great insight. I am glad you brought that up. Let's dive into that further. And I would make sure that I was right there and that they saw me and they saw my excitement. They saw my passion for how they were interacting in the lesson. And now all of a sudden, so-and-so has something and something happened to them and they have a question about something and we have this whole interactive experience, and it truly is a beautiful thing. The last thing that I think is the most important thing and the most obvious is that we have to keep mastering this art of presentation. And just because you have that thing that hits home, it might not hit home every single time. So sometimes I will go into a class session, and I guess I don't sub often, but I do teach a class session at least once every 6 weeks, or twice every 6 weeks. And in those class sessions, I know what jokes hit. I know that if I end my presentation in a certain way, they tend to think it's clever. They tend to laugh a little, giggle a little based on all the information that we've gone over for the day. They're like, yeah, of course, somebody like you would say that based on what we've learned today. And the funny thing is while I know that's how I'm going to end my presentation or the stories I'm going to tell or the jokes I'm going to tell, is that sometimes I'll be in the middle of a joke and maybe I don't actually say the joke right. Or sometimes the students are so smart that they've already come up with that. I already know, let me tell you what's going on. And if they've done that, I'm like, okay, good thing. Good thing I've over prepared for this and we can continue to drive it in that direction. I continue to pull more information out of them. I can continue to ask them really good questions because sometimes it just doesn't hit. Sometimes they know they're ahead of me. Sometimes they have really different questions and we go off in a really different direction. Sometimes I'm just not funny. And I appreciate and understand the fact that I'm just not funny all the time, and that's okay. But that does not mean that we still don't have a great class session. I just have to figure it out. Some classes are bigger than others. And so in the bigger classes, you have more opportunities to pull out more stories and more experiences. Sometimes classes are smaller than others. And in this particular case, one of those classes was very small and very quiet. So you have to spend extra time making them feel comfortable, asking questions that they feel, oh, this is my favorite one. I don't even know why I didn't say that. But ask a question that they have to actually raise their hand too. Like, how many of you are tired of presenting boring PowerPoint presentations? Like, now all of a sudden your hand is up and I'm like, Okay, cool. Let's have a conversation. I've almost baited you. I've almost tricked you. But one question that I will tend to ask: what program are you in? What classes are you in right now? What career field are you going into? So that we can kind of who in here is in cosmetology? Who in here is a dental assistant? People raise their hand. They're just like, oh, me, dental assistant. I'm like, good. I'm glad you raised your hand. I'm glad we're here. I have a question for you. So just continue mastering the craft, continue asking questions. One thing that I love that we have continued to do is our education roundtables. And sometimes it's great to just get feedback from other people. It's great to just have these conversations. I don't know if they existed back when I was just getting started teaching, but the fact that I get to chat with people who are as passionate about education as I am every few weeks is really something that makes my soul happy. So I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but PowerPoint presentations, if you're just reading them, you can do better. You are the guide of the classroom. You can provide a glorious experience that will make you and your students happy. And on that note, I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.